Hey guys, how's it going? Rick here from Most Valuable Podcast, along with the one, the only Brandon Swanson.
How's it going, everybody?
And we're kind of here doing a pseudo segment for you guys because as we were doing our Big Ten West preview, some big news dropped in college football. And think of this as like a bonus edition that you guys get this week, a bonus segment. As Brandon, as the title of our segment says, Hugh Freeze is officially melted away in Ole Miss because on Thursday night, he resigned as head coach because of some inappropriate phone calls that were made on his record, giving his resignation to the Ole Miss AD, and he is now done as the head coach for the Rebels.
Yeah, Ricky, this is a
sticky situation.
No, this is a weird story. This is a very, very weird story, and you're not lying when you say it's a sticky situation. It's interesting because most people believed that Hugh Freeze, if he left, it wouldn't be on his own. It would be a firing.
Yes.
And it would be because of these NCAA sanctions. And it's coming all the way out from left field. And here's a little bit more to it, taking a little bit from Mark Schlabach on ESPN and saying a little bit more of the story because we don't have every full detail yet. We have exactly what they're telling us. And
because we're recording this late into the hours of even Thursday night.
Yes, late into the hours of Thursday night. And the fact that we got Boogers going on ESPN and saying that he thinks that there's a lot more to this. Before I get to the article, Booger going on ESPN saying that he thinks there's a lot more to this because of the fact that Hugh Freeze was owed $4 million. You don't walk away from $4 million.
I was going to mention that. That was something that I thought, after he said it, I was like, that is interesting. Because like he said, if there wasn't more to this, I'd make him fire me and pay me my money. Because he walked away from this, that means there might be some more things behind some doors that we have to open.
Booger thinks that there's, in his conversation with ESPN, he thinks that there's a lot more that's going to be coming out on this story. Whether there is or whether there is not, Hugh Freeze has been in trouble for quite some time. He's been in some really hot water for quite some time. And this goes all the way back to the sanctions, which we'll talk about again. But going now to the ESPN article is that the Rebels athletic director tells ESPN that school officials found a pattern that included, like Ricky mentioned at the beginning, phone calls to a number associated with a female escort service. And Ole Miss Chancellor Jeffrey Vitter, in a Thursday night news conference that announced the move, said that Freeze, who is not yet 50, resigned after confirming to him and the athletic director, Ross Bjork, quote, a pattern of personal conduct inconsistent with the standard of expectations for the leader of our football team, end quote. And Vitter makes mention that Freeze was really good in what he did on the football field. But these NCAA sanctions, now paired with this, is not very good. And what's interesting is, this is something, Ricky, you listened to a little bit of the phone conversation. Did they, to the phone conversation? We were not on the phone call with Hugh Freeze, but you listened to a little bit of what I played with
before
ESPN.
We started recording.
Did they say that it was something all the way back to December, and they just now noticed a pattern that started because they thought it was a misdialed number?
And that's exactly it. They wanted the records from this date to this date, and they saw the number, but it was only a call that was like a minute and a half or under a minute. So they looked then, if you looked at phone records, you would say that's probably just a missed number. Like there's nothing to look at here. However, when they looked back further, it sounded like they had implied where it was like the only reason that would make you think that this was something to where if you looked back further and you saw the same number or you saw that number popping up for longer times on the phone, then it might be like oh, wait, this might be happening. Because what I am thinking what happened, this is total speculation in my head of what I think went on, was Hugh Freeze for a while might have had, if he's resigning, I'm trying to speculate it in my head and give a pseudo prediction of, he probably was doing this for a while.
But
because of the, just really quick, because of the investigation and the sanction, that might have been a day they called and he said, no, we can't do that anymore here. You can't call me on this phone anymore. That could have been the conversation why it was over so fast. Because Hugh Freeze might have known, hey, wait, this is going down. No, call me here. They're going to ask for my phone record. And didn't think they would look back further than when they did.
So, kind of to that point a little bit, Bjork separately told ESPN that once university officials dove deeper into Freeze's phone records on a university-provided cell phone going back as far as shortly after he was hired in 2012, they started finding more of a pattern with phone calls of the nature that USA Today reported after an open records request. Freeze had about $2 million left on his on the contract for this year, $5 million owed to him next year, and $5.15 million for the 2019 season. He won't be paid going forward, and Bjork said that if he had not resigned, he would have been fired.
Well, and here's the thing. I think of this, and my first thought was, being a working man myself, I go, why the hell would you go ahead and make those phone calls at work? What do you think that your employer is going to do when they eventually connect the dots? However, when I further thought into it before we recorded, you even asked the question. You're like, I thought Hugh Freeze was married.
Oh, and he is.
Isn't he married? He is. So here's what I am thinking, and this is me piecing everything together, playing Detective Widmer here, is the reason why he was using his work phone or his work phones was because I'm assuming him and his wife are on the same cell phone bill. He probably thought, hey, I can't use my own cell phone because if it pops up on the cell phone bill, the wife is going to ask me, hey, what's this? Or if she looks into it, she's going to know what it is. So I'm just going to use my work phone to do this from. And if that's the case, total scumbag move from Hugh Freeze. And I'm kind of glad that he did resign because then Ole Miss doesn't have, I'm still in the Big Ten mode as we just got done previewing the Big Ten. Ole Miss doesn't have to pay him because, yeah, you say that if he didn't resign, we would have fired him. But then the legal issue of because he got fired, you would have to pay him what he has owned. Ole Miss is just better off that he resigned because now you don't have to pay him anything that he was owned or owed moving forward.
And Hugh Freeze, again, to make mention of it, has been married to Jill Freeze, I think, since 1992. It's a while. And they came out with a couple of tweets. Him and his wife, Jill, came out with a couple of tweets last year in 2016 on their anniversary. Hugh Freeze saying, I do not understand the mystery of grace, only that it meets us where we are and does not leave us where it found us. Happy anniversary, Jill. And she responded with 24 years. Thank you for being a man who loves me and draws me closer to Jesus. I love you and our life together. Tweets at him, #blessed. And I wonder if she's saying that tonight. But I
Probably
think,
not.
I think
Probably
that,
not.
The fact that, that was for their anniversary, 24 years, 24-year anniversary last summer. And now you've got a guy who's obviously been doing some shady things on the football field and off. I think not on it. He's, he's not obviously a player, but
at work.
But at work and not at work. And now I want to shift this just a little bit to what was going on before this even happened, because a lot of people and a lot of coaches, whether it be at Ole Miss or whether it be another coach in their division, in the SEC, whatever it is, many coaches believe that he was on the hottest of seats and that the NCAA sanctions would be what would ruin him.
Yeah.
He had 21 sanctions against him. 21 sanctions against him. And the investigation involving Ole Miss began because of possible recruiting violations that occurred before last season. So there's recruiting violations, multiple of those. And then the investigation intensified after now Miami Dolphins offensive lineman Laramie Tunsil came out and said that he took money from coaches during his time in college. Whatever it be for, that's not something that you can do. And certainly all these things were known under Hugh Freeze. And then this past year, Hugh Freeze has a very dismal, disappointing 5-7 season, which was his worst in the 5 years with the program. And then tonight, he resigns due to this phone call that's coming out that is, I think, the most damaging for Hugh Freeze because, Ricky, people thought he was a scumbag before because of what the shady dealings that he was doing there.
Now this puts a stamp on it.
This, for everybody, confirms the scumbagginess that they already believed with Hugh Freeze, and it's very, very unfortunate. I feel for his family. I feel for his wife. I feel for his friends who defended him, who came out and would say, "No, Hugh is a good guy. This is not something that he would do." Like
I'd be like, way to make me feel like an ass.
Well, with the sanctions and everything like that. This is not him. He did not know about this. He's a good coach. He's a good moral man. He's a man with faith in Jesus, all this stuff. Exactly. You feel like an ass, and you look like one, and you just defended somebody who allowed you to do that and then lets you look like that.
This is a prime example, too, and this is what I was thinking of. This is a lesson to any, and you can take this to certain situations where I had a boss in college tell me once, and this was because I worked at the student job on campus that I worked, and I had been in a relationship with someone of the same office. So a student in that same office, we both had a similar student employment job. And I remember my boss telling me, I don't think this is a good idea because you don't shit where you eat. Hugh Freeze in this situation, I know I mentioned before he probably couldn't use his personal cell because then the wife would have found out. But this is a prime example. If you're watching this or listening, don't shit where you eat. Like if you have a job, don't be doing any personal stuff that you might, like if you have to think, am I going to get fired over this? Don't do it on your home phone. Don't even touch it because they do track, like your employer can track your phone records. They know who you're calling, how long you're on the phone with them, and the IT department at your work can pull that up whenever they want. It's just a rolling thing for these phones at work. So I think of that, like you shouldn't have shit where you eat. Keep the personal stuff outside of your work, but to me, this is for Ole Miss, the time to move forward because
I think it's a relief.
Yeah, I know that the sanctions are still there. I don't think they leave just because Hugh Freeze is now fired. But one of the things I wanted to mention to kind of wrap this up for the Ole Miss side, and this is a speculation, and this is the hot take from the Primetime Podcast from this. Does this open the door for Les Miles to come back to the SEC?
Well, I think that for now, it's assistant head coach Matt Luke. He's in his sixth season as co-offensive coordinator and offensive line coach. And, Ricky, that's what I mentioned to you earlier. I said that to you earlier, right when I saw this story breaking as we were doing in the middle of doing our Big Ten West previews tonight. And I said, does this open the door for Les Miles? And you said, he said he's going to be on TV. And I said,
for this year.
And I said, whatever.
That's for this year, though.
That's only for
this year.
That opens the door for Les Miles because
this is like, wouldn't this be the one for him?
In my opinion, this opens the door for Les Miles because as LSU was, Ole Miss is a rival of Alabama. Les Miles wants to be. I don't know what he wants to be. I'm not in his head, but
the conference.
This is the conference that I don't see Les Miles leaving. I mean, there's other jobs that have come up that I've said Les Miles could do that, could be their coach, would be successful. But this is the conference, the SEC, this side of the SEC, I could just see it. I really could. Does it open the door? The door will be open for Les Miles until he says absolutely not, or he's on another team and he's coaching for them. The door will be open for Les Miles. But I think that it's really interesting. You had also asked me earlier, do I think that because Hugh Freeze is now gone, the sanctions will go away? No.
See, that's the tricky part, because now I feel bad that they're there because he's the main reason of why most of the sanctions are there.
I think no, but here's the thing. Tonight we had Ole Miss Chancellor Jeffrey Vitter and Athletic Director Ross Bjork there and talking about what was happening tonight with Hugh Freeze. Ross Bjork is not innocent in the NCAA sanctions. Now, I get to work closely with an athletic department, a college and NCAA Division II college athletic department, and the athletic director knows what's going on. And so does the associate athletic director for compliance, and so does the other associate athletic director, and so does the other assistant athletic director. Don't think they don't know what's going on. Don't think they don't know what's going on. And at a big NCAA D1 program, don't think they don't know. Don't think they don't know for a minute that that's happening, but we'll find a way to make sure that it won't be found out. And well, you got found out, and you are as much guilty for allowing it and not stopping it as the guy is for going out and doing it, and that was Hugh Freeze.
And my big thing is I wonder how harsh those punishments will be now that Hugh Freeze is gone. Does it change it in any way? That was just a question I had thrown out to you when we first saw the news break. But overall for Ole Miss, I see this, the sanctions could go one way and that could be a bad thing for them. But this is a positive moving forward for Ole Miss because we knew Hugh Freeze wasn't the right pick as the few years as everything has been unfolding when it started with Laramie Tunsil and what has gone to this. We knew that his time with Ole Miss was ending. Now this was the point where they could just cut the head off the dragon and move forward. Just cut the head off and move straight forward. Yeah, you go through this year with an interim coach, but you want to know something? That doesn't matter because this season, I mentioned it in our preview, was already a wash for me because you already put a postseason ban on yourself. You already put self-imposed bans on yourself to kind of be proactive. So to me, the season was already a wash. This makes it even more of a wash. You can get a new coach for next season and move forward with a clean slate. Kind of like, in a sense, Baylor is trying to do. I know different side, but what Baylor is trying to do with Coach Rule.
Well, I'll be honest with you, is that I think that if Hugh Freeze would not have made those phone calls, and that would have not been even part of this situation,
he'd still be there.
I think he'd still be there. And quite honestly, I think they'd be holding on to him. I don't think that he'd be going anywhere.
Talk is cheap.
Because if he came out and had another good season this year, bounced back from last year, had a 9-win season, not that they will.
Cha-ching, money and wins talk.
But if he did, man, those sanctions suck, but
at least we're winning games.
We're winning games still.
Selling merchandise, that's all that matters, right? Cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching.
Unfortunately.
As long as the schools are making money and the kids don't get paid.
Unfortunately, right? Yeah, unfortunately. And as long as our boosters are happy and their money keeps flowing in, that is how it happens a lot of times. And especially with a big football program and a big college football conference and division, the SEC. Yeah, it's unfortunate. The whole situation's unfortunate, but at the end of the day, you play with fire, you're gonna get burned.
And the thing this is a side note about the cha-ching cha-ching part with the student athletes. You know what absolutely blew my mind when it came to the paying student athletes or not paying student athletes? When Jay Billis said that his son is a business major in college, could get a student job and get a salary, but a student athlete can't because they are a student athlete. That blew my job. Like, wait, well, the business guy is a student as well.
But a student athlete should be able to get a job there if they wanted to. Not that they have the time for it.
Having the football, like the football player should be the job. and be compensated for that.
Well,
maybe that's what we could work on for the future. That's just a side note.
But to make a real quick point on that, because I don't want it, we could go all
we
day
could go forever
for that. But maybe they look at the compensation that that person is getting, that a normal everyday Joe is getting that's not playing college sports, and what are they getting paid? And you could go by that, and it could be stipend pay for these guys, even if it's not a lot. It's enough.
Even if it's enough for
something.
food.
It's something that they could that they could pay
So
for
they
food
can live.
or whatever it might be that helps out. Whether it's, let's say, I'm trying to think of where our pay was, per paycheck. Even if it was like $1,000.
Mine was, I remember it. Yeah, I got $100 every 2 weeks. I got $1,000 a semester.
I was going to say, if it was $1,000 a semester, you could live off of that. Yeah. It's money that you didn't have before, and knowing these schools, they've got the money to be able to do it.
The way my job worked, and you worked in the same area in college, was how it worked is the management had 5 positions, the 3 uppers, $1,000 per semester, the 2 lowers, $500 per semester. So that's what I had gone through my college. Was I was in the upper, so I made $100 every 2 paychecks, and that was $1,000 per semester. It rounded out to something like that. But like you said, we could go on for days about that. I just wanted to throw that in as a little snippet. But I want you guys to tell us what you think about the Hugh Freeze situation, about Ole Miss
give us your
moving
reactions.
forward. Let us know what you guys think, because like I said, this was news that dropped tonight as we were recording the Big Ten West preview, and Brandon and I thought we had to talk about it with you guys. I want to thank you guys for checking it out if you did, either on YouTube or Blog Talk Radio. Thank you guys so much, and as always, have a good day, everybody.